Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to create a client mock-up from two separate photographs. This is going to become the end result. So my client Cheryl was given this commission to do, and she didn't know how to go about it. This was the reference photo that her client wanted painting, but she didn't want this dog's head. She actually wanted the dog's head from this one. So what we're doing really is a photo bashing. We're transferring the dog's head off this one, trying to get it to scale and create a reference photo for painting. And I will say that it is for painting, because if you do look at the final reference, this isn't for printing or turning into prints or anything like this. This is just a visual guide for artists to then use as a reference photo, and also you'd be able to share this with your client. So I'm going to show you how I created this for Cheryl, because she has Procreate but she didn't know how to use it. So I wanted to show you how I went about doing that in this little tutorial. So of course I've got my photographs. The first thing we do need to do is actually cut our dog out. There is a quick way. I'm going to show you the long way first, and then I'm going to show you the quick way of doing that. So I'm going to go into Procreate. This is my Procreate app. And the first thing I want to do is bring the photograph that's going to be the base of the reference. So if I click on photo, this is the one that's going to be the third one along. This is the final version, what we're trying to aim to get to. But this is the photograph that we're going to use as our base, as our reference, the initial reference. So you do always want like a starting point. But of course we want to remove this dog's head and replace it with the other dog. So I'm going to show you the long way of doing that. So I'm going to insert a photograph, and I'm going to insert the other dog as well. So now, and I'll fit that to canvas and then just shrink it slightly. I'm not trying to worry about it fitting to scale just at the moment. What I want to do is actually just remove the head from the body, and then I'll worry about scaling that in a little while. So now I've got my two main references in here, and again this is the long way of doing it, but I wanted to show you both options because certain iPads don't have the second option. So this is something that would be available on all iPads. I want to go into my layers menu, and here you can see both those layers. You can name them if you want. I'm not going to for this one. I'm actually going to switch off the original layer, so I'm now just left with this one. And what I'm going to do now is use the erase tool here, which is the third one along. Move that to the erase, and I'm going to begin erasing the background. So I'm going to very roughly do this to about chest level, because we can fine tune it later. Get rid of some of the excess, and I can make my eraser bigger with these scales here. I remove all that. And then what I want to do now is really zoom in, drop the scale of my eraser down, and then I can carefully go along the dog and just erase that background. I will also advise you get one of these gloves as well, because it enables you to slide over your iPad. And the other thing I also have, which does help with the drawing side of things, I actually have a screen protector called Paper-like on here. You can get two of them. They last for absolutely ages, but I did want to mention that it does help. Sort of instead of the feel of drawing on glass, you have a little bit of a texture. So I'm only going to roughly do this because I'm going to show you the other way as well. So once I've kind of gone around that, I can make that bigger now and get rid of the rest. And again, like I said, I'm doing that very, very roughly. The main aim is that you remove the background on the dog that you want to do the adjustments on. So now I've done that, if I switch the other layer back on, you can see I've got this floating head. So that's one way of doing it. I'm going to show you a faster way of doing that, but it does depend on your iPad. I'm going to come out of that. I'm going to go to my photographs and open the photo up. Now, if you just use your finger and press and hold, something absolutely magical happens. Did you see that? And here it says copy, and you can see there's a little white line now going all the way around this dog. It's already done the cutting out for you, which really does speed things up. And then I'll click copy. Come out of that, open up your iPad. I'm going to remove this one so we can just turn that image off. And then to the wrench up here, click that, and then here you've got paste option. All the way down to the bottom, click paste and do allow paste, and that has cut the dog out completely for you. Again, speeding things up no end. So if I open my images, I'm actually going to delete the original one that we did. Delete that, and we'll work with this one. I'll remove that layer. So now all I really need to do, and again, I'm not too worried about the edges because I'm only using this for a mock-up. Go back to erase, and again I'll just erase this bottom half, and again you can see that just makes life a little bit easier. If you want to, you can go around and just feather in these edges. I'm not going to worry too much about that. We'll worry about that as we start to put this in position. So now I've got the floating head and my original reference photo. So whichever layer is highlighted is the one you're able to move. If I highlight the head and I click this arrow key here, it now allows me, if I unclick it, I'm not in selection mode, but if I click that, I'm in selection mode. And this now allows me to move this around. I want to position that, and I can enlarge that to what I think. I'm going to try and line up the ears to make those ears fit a little bit better. Once I feel like I've got something in place, we may just adjust that slightly. Again, I'm lining up, I'm looking at the body here, lining up the size of the ears, trying to blend that carefully, and then I'll release that. Now, of course, we've got a weird ear here, so we need to remove that. So what we're going to do now is start to go into our first layer. We're going to go back to the first layer, and now we're painting. I'm going to click the paint layer. You can choose any brush. If you go to the stand, I've actually purchased quite a few brushes, which is why I will look like I've got more. But if you actually just go to the normal painting brushes that will be on, you've got round brushes, flat brushes, acrylic brushes, and so on. And you want to just choose one of those. I'm just going to go with I'm going to go to artistic. In fact, let's go back to painting, and we'll just stick with the round brush for now. You can test that and make sure you're happy. Now, the thing with the brushes as well, the lighter you are and the heavier you are, the pressure, very much like when you're painting, the pressure you put on your brush is going to be the pressure that comes through. So we'll stick with that for now, because I know you guys will have that in your library. So what I want to do is remove that ear from behind. I'm going to leave the dog in place, the main dog in place. And what I'm going to do is select the colour of the background and then paint over that. Now, because it will not paint on this layer, it will only paint on the layer I'm in. So I can now carefully just erase that background. Remember, this is just a mock-up. And the same over here, I've got a little bit of the fur and details over here. I might leave that actually. And then here I want to now erase some of this front dog back into, so I'm going to go back to this layer and go back to erase. And I'll just make that slightly bigger. And I'm going to just start to soften this fur back into the fur underneath. Let me undo that. Now you can see I went too far. I'm picking up the mouth of the other dog. Double tap and you can undo. So I just want to soften that in. Maybe soften these edges here. And I'm very light with the pressure. The eraser works the same way. And then over here, I'm going to bring her t-shirt back. So I'm going to erase a little bit around here. And it is just, I'm going to go back to the other layer, pick up the colour of her t-shirt and brush that inwards. Again, just back and forth until you've got something. Now I'm going to go to the blending tool here, which is this second one along. We've got the painting tool and we're now in the blending tool. And I'm going to go back to the dog layer and just smoosh this in a little to get a little bit of softening. Again, double tap if you don't like anything. And that will allow you to just blend. We'll go the other way as well. Blend inwards. Just soften that in. And back to blending. And then I'll also go with this colour and I'll brush upwards into the dog. So again, remember which layer you're on. We're on the dog layer, but I'm going to choose the colour from the layer underneath. And again, just brush inwards to just create a softer edge. So it's just playing around with it until you've got something that you can work with as a reference photo. I'm going to go back to this layer here, and again here I'll select this colour and I'm going to neaten up around that. We have to go back onto the dog. If nothing's happening, it's because you're in the wrong layer. So I'm going to just lower that and again just soften around here to remove some of these hard edges. Back to the blending tool again, just to soften where we need to. And paint over anything and just remove a few of those marks. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for our mock-up. And again, this is something you could send to your client for approval. You'd be able to change the background, for example, if you wanted to change the colour of a background, you could change that up and paint on there and do things like that, and just then ask your clients, you know, for approval. And you can change things a little bit with these photographs, these photo references, and just sort of send a mock-up then to your client. So again, imagine this as a lovely landscape and you've taken a dog out of one, you know, put a landscape that your client wanted and you agreed on, and you take it out of a photograph that really has got quite a boring background, and you put your dog in there, do a little blending, and then you'd be able to send that off to your client as a mock-up. So I hope you found this tutorial really useful. I'm absolutely loving the things that we can do with Procreate now, and have some fun sort of photo bashing and mixing different photographs to create something unique.